Perfect. And Wayne just showed up, and I believe we are live now. Are we live? I think we're live. We'll have to ask Wayne when he
It
comes.
says, yeah, we're live. We're good.
Ask me what.
All right. Hey,
Hey, what's up?
hey, smack 'em gub, everybody. There's Wayne. Hi, Wayne.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Mark. Hello, Tony. Hello, Ralph. And
Hello.
hello, everybody watching.
And yes, we got a special guest, Mr. Mark Zonder, that in the early 80s, the Metal Massacre at Warlord. We go way back, Mark. And I own several albums that have your name on it, Warlord and Fates Warning. And welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Definitely looking forward to it.
Right on. So, Mark, you got a new Warlord album coming out, right? I heard it today. It was really good.
Yeah,
Yep, it's
I listened
coming
to it
out.
today as well. Good
Oh,
stuff.
cool. Thank you. It's I think it's like May 5th, something like that. Yeah, no, we're very happy with it. It's bittersweet. It's kind of like the first time I ever recorded Warlord without Bill.
Mhm.
Um, but his tracks are on there. I
Oh,
have stuff on my computer that go back to like 16 and 2016, 2017, and we were working on stuff, and it's just because of his health. I mean, I'll never forget when he came out in, boys, before I was married, so like 2000 or 1999 to New York to record Rising Out of the Ashes with Joachim. Even back then, he was sick and he had like a whole satchel of different drugs he had to take for the gastro. He had like a gastro problem where it'd get him really sick where he couldn't even stand up.
Mm.
Yeah.
So as much as we were working on stuff and we wanted to, we just couldn't get it going. I mean, it's really tough to play and record when you're kind of bent over. It's
Mm.
it's rough. But he's on that album. His with my the Beatles did it. We did it. They used whatchamacallit's tracks, and then McCartney and Ringo played on it too. I mean, we took Bill's tracks. I mean, the cool thing was, we always played to a click, so it was cool and it was easy. And I had my stuff that I did. I kind of rewrote stuff and kind of played it a little differently. But no, Bill's all over the record, and it was interesting. I've never quite done a record like that before. But no, I thought it turned out really well, and more importantly, I think we kept it in the Warlord sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell everyone who's in the band now?
The bass player is Philip Bino. Kind of like wherever I go, Philip goes. Um, Giles Lavery singing, Jimmy Waldo's playing the keys, and Eric Juris is playing the guitar on the record. We have another guitar player live, Diego, that because you have to have the two guitar players for the dual lead stuff. But Eric Juris played all the guitars on the record, and he really, I have to say, just so people get it. Number one, there's no money in this, so this is not about money. This was all about putting the Warlord music out that Bill wanted out. Um, but Giles, Jimmy, and Eric did all the work. I could sit here and go, "Hey, yeah, man, I did everything." No, I played the drums. Um, Giles was digging everything up. Jimmy had, so much work to do with like copying the sounds, and everybody was totally on board with let's make this sound like Warlord. This isn't going to be Warlord 2024 with a reggae groove and electronics. This is going to be Warlord. Let's don't get, and even when I played, I purposely kind of kept that in mind. I didn't start Fates Warning It Up or A through Z and like getting stupid and playing over the bar line. It was like, it's Warlord, okay? We all know what that is. And Giles did a great job doing everything as far as like putting the things together and the songs, and they had to, manipulate them to the point of like, okay, what are we gonna do? We can't just take this idea, we have to make it a song. So it was Giles and Eric caught Bill's parts. He got totally into Bill's sound, knew exactly what was going on with what in the style and guitar lingo, whatever, this style, that style. And Jimmy sat down and just really pulled the keyboards apart and caught those sounds. Oh, that's a mini moog from 1974, and this, that, and the other. So it definitely sounds like Warlord. And those three guys right there. I mean, me and Bino played the bass and the drums for all intents and purposes. Those other guys really did the work and really did the grind it out and make it for what it is.
It's funny how you mentioned how you played your drums, because from your like being in Fates Warning, you had a different style for that, and then with Warlord, it's more of like kind of like a laid back kind of style in a way, or whatever. And I noticed you did that.
Yeah, it's playing for the song. The real thing that people, I'm sure everybody knows, but when it really goes back to me and Bill, we're totally into Rainbow,
Yeah.
totally into Sabbath, totally into Deep Purple. Those bands weren't really, I mean, yes, they had a touch of a progressive kind of thing to it compared to maybe, Free, Bad Company, or AC/DC, but we kept into that. There's a lot of double bass going on, which I don't really incorporate these days too much, but there's just a certain style from that era. You're playing for the song, you're not,
Right.
but Warlord was always about the music as a whole and everybody contributing. There was never a look at me factor.
Mm-hmm.
Bill could play whatever you wanted. I mean, I'm not going to say that he could be Yngwie, but he could go down that route if he really wanted to. But he didn't. Warlord was a little different of a thing for him. But everybody was playing for the song.
Yeah.
I think for everyone out there watching it, some of the names you mentioned, Giles and Jimmy Waldo is from the band Alcatrazz, and he's done numerous stuff through the years, different projects, and Giles is currently singing for Alcatrazz. So yeah, and I just saw them a couple of nights ago, and Giles is an amazing singer. He sounded great. I mean, he's taken Graham Bonnet's spot here, so he did a really, really good job, I thought. And well, you played with Graham Bonnet for a little while a couple years ago, because I got a record called the Book, and you're on.
Oh yes, I did. That's where
Is that where you came together with Jimmy, pretty much?
I that's where I met Jimmy, but we never played together per se. It was just kind of doing the record and then the back end of kind of putting the record together. And we wrote some songs. I mean, sitting right here where I am right now, Conrad and Jimmy, we were writing songs right here. But Jimmy, when it came to touring after that, they didn't want to spend the money to bring a keyboard player along. So I had a nice laptop that had the vocals, the click, and the keyboards. And excuse me, I really got to stop smoking. I was like choking on my drink, but never played with Jimmy. So really, really looking forward to getting on stage with him, because we'll have a good time. I mean, we're, put it this way, we're the oldest guys in the band, so we'll have something in common.
And Giles played with you back in like 2012 or 13 or something.
Well, Giles did the first Warlord shows in Greece, and little unknown story is we had someone else lined up all ready to go for those shows. And about a month out, the guy wasn't turning in what he was supposed to be turning in, and me and Bill kind of went, "Uh-oh, this we can't wait any longer." So Bill knew Giles and called him up, in like a 3-week period. Giles stepped in and did a great job. Funniest story about Giles, and I know he'll kill me, but that's okay. He's going on to fame and fortune, and now he's going solo. I don't know if you heard, but he's leaving Alcatrazz to go solo now. So he's he's big time. Giles went big time. No. But the funniest thing is we play Keep It True, and we're doing the sound check, and the vendors are setting up. We do sound check. We come walking off, and Giles is like, "Man, that was the biggest crowd I ever played in front of." And I just went, "Uh-oh." But he did a great job. He did a great job, and obviously he's matured since then, and gotten better, and the experience and everything. So no, he does a great job.
Yeah, he was great the other night. So those shows that you did for Keep It True, was that the first live shows you guys ever did? Because you never played live back in the 80s, correct?
Technically, it wasn't the first live show. Wacken in 2000, I want to say 2004, but I could be lying. Is with Joachim. It's the Wacken that Bruce Dickinson played solo.
That's Joachim from Hammerfall.
Yes.
Yeah.
After rising out of the ashes, we played Wacken at like 2:00 in the morning. I mean, it was still packed. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah, there it is. And then we played a gig like a day or two before that, like in a little sweaty ass club. It was probably about 115 degrees. But Giles was like the first, like, we played a few shows right through that run, kind of thing. But yeah, that was it. Problem was, we just couldn't find a singer. It's not like, I mean, we played live every night in our rehearsal studio. We had people over all the time, you know. I mean, Robin Crosby from Rat, Yngwie was there, you know, Joe Floyd from Warrior, you know, Roy Z. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, it was, you know, it was L.A., it was North Hollywood, it was right there.
Yeah.
We couldn't find a singer that stuck, you know, and we auditioned, not necessarily auditioned, talked to them all. Mark Bowles, Jeff Scott Soto, Neil Turk. The list goes on and on and on. You know, we even went to Dio's house. You know, we were, you know, we're thinking, hey, it can't hurt. You know, can it?
That's reaching for the stars. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, why not? He's right there at Tarzana, which was close. And, you know, I think we got as far as the front door. But no, we just couldn't find a singer. I mean, we were so ready to go. And back then you could play. You know, there's a lot of places to play in LA. And just couldn't find a singer that stuck.
Well, I remember having the Deliverance album, and the order form that you could order the And the Cannons of Destruction Have Begun, which I finally got about 20 years ago when Metal Blade put it out on DVD, because for years, and I traded bootlegs and stuff too, and I never could get a decent copy of it. Somebody tacked it at the end of a tape once, and it was just unwashable. It was so many, you know, generations. But I was like, man, and I was, where did they film this at? And is there an audience there?
Okay, here's the story. Remember in Spinal Tap when they're doing they're setting up a live gig and they got Smell the Glove and they come walking down the aisle? That's where we filmed it. It was called Perkins Palace.
Oh yeah, Perkins Palace. Right.
The whole idea behind this was we knew that we weren't Motley Crue, Cinderella, Faster Pussycat, Rat, that kind of band. We thought we'd appeal more to a European crowd. And you got to remember, there's no computer, there's no internet, there's no nothing. Mm-hmm. So how do you reach them? Well, if you do like a video like this, they can see it. Maybe you get the tour, maybe you get the singer, maybe whatever. We were doing our own self-promotion. The whole idea behind this was to go in, set up, and yes, Bill and I physically made those things in the background where I mean, this was not like a budget. There was no budget. So we did all those kind of cute little things and ran out to the costume company to get the hooded things and, you know, the whole bit. You know, that's what bands did back then.
Yeah.
But the idea was like, okay, let's set up, let's blow through the set, we'll change the camera. There's only 2 cameras. Let's change the cameras. Okay, we'll go here, we'll go this. It got so goofy and took so long. That thing was shot 1 take. That's it. And then they shut us down. 1 take. That's why you don't really see any close-ups of the drums. You don't really see too many close-ups because 2 cameras live on the fly. And that was it, you know. So that was kind of disappointing in that respect, but what are you going to do? You know,
the audio is pretty good on it.
Well, we went in, we definitely recorded that ahead of time because I knew that no way in hell we were going to be able to play and get that in. No, there was never, no way that was going to happen. I mean, this was like a, you know, like I said, a 12-hour day or whatever, you know, and there's no going back. So we recorded that ahead of time. Purposely made it sound really bad, like it was live. It was a pretty nasty recording per se. And it's funny how people just like that album. And I just, not that I cringe, but I think it's out of phase. I think it's just a mess. It was at a goofy studio. It just wasn't very good. But hey, if people like it and it brings back memories and all that kind of stuff, it's all that really counts, you know?
Yeah.
People heard you mention Dio before. Did you ever like actually get to talk to him because they want to know like what was his reaction?
We never got no. Okay. There's 2 big guys. You know, and then Wendy Dio standing in the background cutting them out. It didn't go too far. Yeah, you know. No, our biggest splash with fame was there was a manager named Michael Browning who used to manage AC/DC back then, and we got a meeting with him and we went up the Hollywood Hills, typical, you know, LA kind of rock and roll stardom thing. We go up there and we bring him the record and he tells us to sit down. He plays Deliver Us front to back, flips it over, doesn't say a word. I mean, he looks at us and he goes, you know, you got a platinum record there, right? And then Bill and I are kind of going, okay, here we go. And he goes, but nothing's ever going to happen because your label doesn't have the power to do anything with it. was like, and pretty much on the head. You have to remember, and Brian Slagle was starting out, and God bless him for giving us all the opportunities, but they just didn't have the muscle to do anything with it. It was a very competitive time. I mean, you can't compete with a band that's on Atlantic Records. How are you going to do that? How's Brian going to do that?
Yeah.
And especially Warlord was a little bit of a different kind of band than, like I said, than in the 80s it was, it was Rat, it was Poison, it was those early bands that were like that. Armored Saint kind of walked that line a little bit. They weren't Motley Crue, obviously, but then again, they weren't Rainbow either. So they were kind of in the middle, and God bless them, they're still going strong and everything. But yeah, it was an interesting time, and Bill got very frustrated with it. He couldn't understand all the work that we put in, the way we lived, the way we dedicated everything to the band, and like nothing, like zero. And that's basically what ultimately led to things just kind of stopping. There wasn't like a breakup, like, hey man, you're hanging out with my chick or whatever, or you stole money or stole my food or crashed my car. Bill just kind of got to the point of like, what are we doing this for? It's like, is this just going to continue? We can't find the singer. The record does what it does, but there's no follow up to it. So kind of what happened.
You definitely, Warlord's definitely a huge influence on power metal, especially the power metal that came the next few years after that, I'm sure. I mean, big influence on Hammerfall, of course.
Yeah, considering that they used to open their shows with Child of the Damned, I would have to say so. Well, I mean, Joachim was a really big fan, and we knew that. And that's probably the second mystery of Warlord to me, is why that record. I don't know if you guys know the story, but here we go. We get a singer. We just don't get a singer. You got a singer from a really popular band. It's like, I mean, what's the problem? Every label turned us down, even Metal Blade. I got a one-line response from Metal Blade in Europe. Not interested.
Wow.
Wow.
That's odd. By the way,
and that's like at the height of that period of time where that sound was like pretty big,
Yeah.
That's strange.
I mean, Nuclear Blast had a ton of bands like that. Exactly. So did Century Media.
I have no idea. I don't know if the band's just cursed, but again, like I said, I thought with Joachim, proven commodity, you just take all his fans, like this day and age, how well, we don't really care what the music's like, but how many records did each guy in the band sell in his previous band, and then we'll make a decision if we're going to sign it or not. That's all about marketing and sales, but it wasn't back then.
Right.
I guess no one. Hey, so it goes.
So Warlord ceased to exist. Then you move on. Was it a few years later you got the audition for Fate's Warning?
Well, let's be clear. There was no technical audition. Okay, I had done drum tuning on a couple of their records, and they were in my studio for a while, and just got to know them. And supposedly part of the backstory was Jim was a big Fate's Warning. I mean, of course he was a Fate's Warning fan, but a big Warlord fan. And it was just one of those things where, after the Warlord thing dumped out, I was playing with about 16 different bands. I was playing with a funk band. I was playing with the people from Animotion. I was playing in a, all black metal band. I was, not death metal, but like black guys. And no, it wasn't Living Color.
Was it Sound Barrier?
No, it wasn't Sound Barrier either. But and Jim calls me up and says, hey, we're looking, to replace drummer. Would you want to play, in the band? And I said, well, I'll be very honest with you that, and No Exit was out. I go, if you're kind of going in that direction, that's really not my kind of cup of tea. And I don't think I'd be doing you any service. And it's not really what I want to do. Because he goes, oh, no. Part of the problem, or part of why we're looking for drummers, we're trying to change the style, and we need someone that can play that kind of thing. And it just kind of went from there. And I was sitting it was interesting because I had the rehearsal studio, but I had it booked. So I was in like a friend's like shed out in the back with a kick and a snare and a hi-hat, working out part of the machine, working out Through Different Eyes and, whatever, F8's Hands and that one. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I just kind of rolled into that. I don't think I think we were at that time, it was either sending cassettes back and forth or we'd do the classic put the phone up to the speaker to hear it kind of thing. I mean, me and Jim did a couple records like that one. I mean, I definitely know for sure. I'm not sure if the first one did that, but I show up in Connecticut at the Carriage House and Roger Probert and Max Norman, and we just start recording, and it is what it is.
Yeah, it was a good album, very good album. I mean, I was a big Fates Warning fan anyway, and started to get into more of what Queensryche was doing with the Operation Mindcrime and stuff as well. So that was almost like that's kind of what you guys were going for, like a more mainstream, a little more proggy, less Iron Maiden, more modern Queensryche or something sound. It seems like to me.
I think it's real obvious that the way Jim described it, they're looking to go in a different direction, and just your listener sits down and he listens to No Exit. I mean, he listens to Perfect Symmetry, and you can get it, especially from a drum point of view.
Yeah.
It really.
Oh yeah, drumming is like night and day on the two.
Yeah,
and that's nothing against Steve Zimmerman. He's a great drummer, but it's a totally different style.
It's a different style, and also I think it changed Ray's vocal up a little bit. The thing that I noticed, and I'm not sure if it was Ray and or Steve or what, but I noticed once I started playing with Ray, he really grabbed on to kind of singing in the pocket and using the music as a structure a little bit more. I mean, John Arch was the complete opposite. John Arch, I swear to God, didn't record with the drums on in his headphone because it doesn't lock, which is a style, and that's cool. But I'm just saying, I've really noticed Ray started to lock in and really feel that. And then it's interesting because as time went on and we get to know each other more, he came from a background of like R&B and funk and and top 40 radio and stuff, where parents and stuff would listen to that stuff. So that kind of rolled into that whole A through Z thing, where I knew he could sing that kind of thing, where you're looking for a very hit song kind of big chorus, lock in the grooves, and not like all over the place. And I think Ray's expression or someone else's expression back in the day was operatic pomposity, with the vocals and stuff like that. Kind of got away from that one a little bit, so.
Yeah, that was good. Bring me to my next question, was the A to Z or A through Z. That was a really, really good record. The real catchy choruses, and that's pretty much for Alder and Zonder, I guess. And then
originally it wasn't. That wasn't it. What originally it was, really? Of course, anybody that's ever been in a band knows the hardest thing in a band, even harder than finding it. Well, it's not as hard as finding a singer, but the name of the band. Think
everything's been taken.
Well, yes and no, but think about it. You and me sitting around smoking a couple joints, dude. Let's call the band Rush. You'd laugh me out of the room. Let's call the band Journey. Hey, really? Put a couple million albums sold behind it, and every name sounds great. You know what I mean? If we were sitting around and I said, "Hey, let's name the band Kiss," you'd look at me like, "Come on, please." We were talking about it one day, and Ray goes, how about A through Z? It kind of encapsulates everything from the front, from the start to the finish. And then it hit everybody with the A and the Z on that kind of part of thing. But that wasn't the initial go-to thing. It was the fact of like, the expression A to Z. It's everything. Everything's included. All the styles are included. Because on that record, it does, it's got rock stuff. It has a little kind of reggae thingy dingy. It has a different feel to it. It has, kind of a not what do they call that? Industrial kind of thing at times. It has different sound effects. It has this, it has that. So that's where that A through Z actually came from.
Yeah, like I said, it's really some really good songs on there. It's very catchy, got a lot of hooks in it. And Wayne, if you haven't heard the A to Z,
no, I just heard about it today.
You got his drumming on that. It's kill. You'll love it, man. Wayne's a drummer, so
yeah, I'm a drummer.
Okay.
I try to be. I pretend I'm a drummer.
The second one's almost finished. It still needs to be mixed. The second one though is interesting, and now you're going to get this real incestuous thing going on here. Jimmy Waldo is playing the keys. I switched out the guitar player and the keyboard player from the first record. So the guitar player is Nick Van Dyke from the band Redemption. And also, I'm not sure if you guys know Simone from Italy. his band DGM, I think is what they're called, Simone Mulroney. He's the guy who mixed that first A through Z record. Amazing engineer, and I would almost venture to say better guitar player. But the second A through Z, it has the hooks. I mean, it definitely has the hooks. It's set up for big choruses, but it has a lot more bite to it. It's heavier. It's a little proggier, one could say. It's a great progression. I think that Die Hard kind of, put it this way, that first record, I'm not sure if really entered into a whole Dream Theater kind of heavier kind of thing, because I don't think it had the quote complexity, I guess you could say. But the second record it's heavier and it has a little bit more complexity to it. You have a guy like Nick Van Dyke, writing from Redemption, you're not getting pop tunes out of it. So, but it's definitely set up in the structure of, verse, chorus, bridge, kind of thing. It's not like all over the place, but there's some really, really cool out there kind of things that are really cool. I think if you like the first one, you're definitely going to like the second one. But if you thought the first one wasn't grinding enough and heavy enough, trust me, the second one will definitely prove you right on that one.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Apparently, we have another drummer in the chat too, Mean Metal Mike. He wants to know what your influences growing up were.
Well, I was fortunate. I started drum lessons when I was 7. So I remember very distinctly being in elementary school up on the stage in the front of everybody, having to play my 5-stroke rolls and 7-stroke rolls. And that was back in the day when there was music in school. Okay.
Right.
And it was an education. It was free drum lessons. I mean, that's what it was. I played in all the orchestras and all that. But when it really comes down to music, when I was a little kid and stuff, my parents were playing, some Beatles stuff, but more Motown, Tijuana Brass, stuff like that was very popular at the time. But my first big thing that I just sat down for hours with the turntable was the first 3 Journey albums with Ensley Dunbar. And it's before Steve Perry joined the band. And it was jazz, rock, a very little bit of jazz, but it was rock, fusion, prog. And Ensley was just tearing it up. I mean, it was stupid. It was, as much as everybody looks at Neil Peart and says whatever they say, but, his big thing is, he brought the drums to the forefront. I mean, Ensley was just miles ahead of that. Just like unbelievable. Anytime you hear me play anything with my foot with the hi-hat, I got that from Ensley Dunbar. Totally ripped, completely. And his style is just, it was aggressive. Here's an example. There's a lot of bands that are great bands, sell millions of records and whatever, but the drummer's not really driving the bus. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's cool. Ensley was driving the bus, man. They were following him, and there was no doubt about it. And that's what really kind of opened that door of like, well, wait a minute, we just don't have to go boom, tap, boom, tap. And he had that jazz kind of blues thing with the ride cymbal and the hi-hat that a lot of rock guys don't have, that I stole from him and really incorporated it. But yeah, he was the guy. First time I ever saw China inverted, the way everybody plays them nowadays.
Okay, yeah.
Guy playing traditional grip and tearing it up. Traditional grip was usually a jazz thing. But yeah, Ainsley Dunbar. I mean, we used to go see Journey in a place probably about as big as this room right here in San Francisco called the Old Waldorf, and sit about 20 feet away. And this guy was tall. He was a big guy. It's like you sit there, you go, oh my God. It was coming at you. And I really took a lot from that. He's my guy as far as that goes.
Right.
Neil was cool. I think Neil, his big thing was made it cool to be in a band and share the spotlight equally with the other 2 guys by playing the drums kind of thing. Not exactly, and I know you're going to get hate mail for this, but not exactly my top guy of all time. Like that you have to, oh my God.
All right, get him off of this show. Jesus.
I could name 3 right now, Vinnie Colaiuta. I mean, even Carter Beauford for Dave Matthews Band.
He's good. He's really good. Yes.
Yeah. And these guys like that, when you see them playing in that context, they're kind of limited. Who actually that goes totally under the radar was Pat Torpey, with Mr. Big before he passed. Yeah, he's playing Mr. Big and it's really cute. And we got all the chicks and Eric Martin's knocking it out. But that guy could play like I mean, people don't know. People
He
just
played
don't.
on that. He played on that album with Graham Bonnet, the Impellitteri record, and he's
Yeah,
killing it on there. That's like an Ingve style, record. He's
yeah, but I
killing it.
mean, there's just like when you watch him play a solo, just screwing around with it, you just know he has the facility, you know. But yeah, there's a lot of guys that are out there that are, really, really, really good, you know.
Like Ricky Rocket, right?
It's funny, and I know Lars is coming next, but but the truth be told, my gig is, hey, I might not like your band, but man, if you're making money in this business like this, I got to take my hat off to you because we all know how difficult that is. So you did something right. And bottom line, man, Lars called this whole Napster crap way before it. So if anybody's ever
absolutely,
and give him shit for that, please, he was way ahead of that,
Yeah.
But
oh no, on this channel, I defend Lars actually.
Pardon me?
On this channel, I actually defend Lars. And I have brought that up, how he was right back then when he was getting so much hate, but look what happened.
Oh no, he called that one ahead of time. And the bottom line is, he's the greatest drummer in the world. No, but who is the greatest drummer in the world? The bottom line is, man, that they went for it. They stayed their course. I'm sure they had lean times, but they kept doing it. They just kept doing it. It's the same thing like with a band like Dream Theater. They just kept doing it. They didn't have a top 10 hit. They didn't have, like, I don't think they had like the amazing, label support that put them out with like all the greatest bands in the world all the time. I mean, they put in the work, and they deserve everything that they get. I mean, you can't begrudge them that. If you want to sit down and start judging drummers per se, yeah, okay. He's not going to basically, be in the top 10 of drummers, but in a way, if you look at the top 10 drummers of album sales, he would be there. I mean, look at the guy from Green Day. Not my cup of tea, but hey, you must be doing something right that I'm not doing, because you're having that kind of success. So
yeah.
Is there a drummer out there today that's like that's really caught your eye or your ear?
The thing that I've noticed, and not to be Debbie Downer, a lot of the guys, and I've seen a lot of the gymnastic stuff, the stuff that's just like completely over the top.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to play a clave pattern with my left foot. I'm going to play a 9/6 with my right hand, but my left hand's going to be eating sushi while my right foot is, that's cool.
Yeah.
But put that in a song. I want to hear that in a song. I want to hear a groove. I think, my expression is, some of these guys couldn't find a pocket with a pair of pants. I mean, the idea and all that stuff is cool. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong. But where's that guy that can just lay it down? Where's Cozy Powell? Where is everybody, especially with this whole YouTube generation of like, going crazy and like the spectacle thing. And that's cool. That's great. But it kind of skipped the point sometimes with the drumming, as far as, okay, let's lock in all these basics first.
Right.
And, I used to say in my clinic all the time, what's the greatest drum riff in the world? It's 4 quarter notes on the kick drum, because everybody gets it.
Right.
Mom doesn't get Weckl, okay? But my mom gets 4 kicks on the, it's just, it's about the pulse, and there's ways to incorporate that, and there's ways to go nuts with that. But I see these guys playing stuff, and I'm just like going, oh my God, my head's spinning.
I don't know if you ever saw the guy, I can't remember his name. He's got a beard. He's like Brazilian or something.
Oh yeah, you mean 100 miles an hour?
Yeah, and he plays with one hand sometimes. Yeah. He's got a kick drum, a snare drum, and a floor tom. And he just plays those things, and the way he plays them, it's amazing. But like you said, what can you do with that in a song? It's not.
It's the gymnastics thing.
It's all it is. It's a show off.
Cool. I've always found interesting on his things. And yes, it's amazing. I can't do that. You could put a gun in my hand and just shoot me. It's cool. Have you ever noticed how all his drums are tuned so tight?
So
sounds like he's playing on a practice pad kit almost.
And even on the snare drum, he like throws a towel on there or a plate or whatever, just to deaden the sound of it.
Yeah, it's again, this is if we didn't have the internet.
I'm more impressed with the kids, the little kids on there that just like play their asses off, and they're like freaking so good at like 5 years old. It's just amazing.
Well, what'll happen. By 11, he'll be in rehab, and
Yeah.
it's going to be one of those stories. It's like
Either that or they might just grow out of it. They don't want to do it anymore, and then
there's a
I feel like a lot of times it's the parents kind of pushing them in that direction a little bit. We've got, people our age having children, and we grew up on rock and roll and everything, and kind of pushing the kids into it. It's like, I run a music store, and I kids come in and they get this high end gear. Parents buy them high end gear, and when we were kids, we got whatever cheap El Cheapo guitar and whatever we could get it.
I started at 7. I was on the practice pad and the snare drum until 13, and the first drum kit I got at 13 was some Taiwanese piece of crap. It wasn't like cool, okay. But it's interesting you say that, because with my kids, I have twins, and they'll be 18, and when they were born, I had them. They were in the hospital. And I had my Sennheiser headphones, and I had the boombox they're hooked up to, and the nurses would play Hendrix, the Beatles, Bad Company, and Frampton continuously, But that's as far as I pushed them. My daughter totally got into that. We've seen them all. We'd see Kansas and blah, blah, blah. She's totally into that whole Foreigner Sick, blah, 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 as well as her own stuff. No rap, none of that crap, but she likes the K-pop stuff, whatever. My son doesn't understand the meaning or the purpose of music. How did that happen?
That's weird.
Wow.
Wow.
And you're talking about kids that literally grew up, in wherever we live, the drums, were in the garage or whatever in the studio, and they were above. They've heard drums their whole life. Sleeping, awake, they've heard it their whole life. My son, no interest whatsoever. Then I joke with him, I said, dude, you're doing the right thing. Manage the band. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't blame it, manage it, get the rights to everything. But no, it's I've seen that too with the pushing. My parents, I took lessons, I wouldn't practice. There go the lessons. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd have to come back and say, hey, I want to do it again. I'll never forget, man. I got so frustrated. I took the sticks and I shoved it through the snare drum, and I went through both heads. That was the end of those lessons for a while. And I had to come back to it. So yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm sure there's plenty of parents that think, what parent would think that the music business is a good way to go?
Yeah.
How about you learn Mandarin and get into business school? There you go. You'll be set for life. You can, the Chinese economy and business, you're good, man. You can be a translator, make $500 an hour or whatever they make, Music, like I said, I wouldn't want to be 25 years old today.
No, if you want to make money, it's definitely not something to do. To try to do it as a life, choice.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the new Warlord album for a second. And what label is it coming out on? Is this independently released? What's that?
High Roller.
Okay, cool.
And they did all they're a great label. They're like that great label. No one knows them.
Germany, right?
Yeah. They did all these Warlord reissues.
Mm-hmm.
They did them up so well. Posters, stickers, 7 inches, just beautiful packaging, beautiful.
Yes.
Just incredible. I mean, amazing. Yeah. So when this whole thing came around, and there was a kind of a no-brainer where we were going label-wise. We didn't even shop it. It was just kind of a no-brainer. These guys have done right by us for so long, and of course we're going there. If they're interested, if they're interested, and they were, because the owner is a big Warlord fan, which always helps. So it was probably half passion and half business per se. But they've just done right by us, without a doubt. They're just great.
Yeah, they put nice packages together. They got a nice little box set or something for you guys too, right? Or not a box set, but like a couple different.
Oh yeah, they got the whole thing, and it comes with like stories and demos from 1931, and I mean they
guys are around that long.
Yeah, exactly. Again, that was Giles, even back then, who got all that stuff and did all the legwork and dug out all the tapes and called the different people who might have them and figure out. He was doing that. I'm too lazy, or I'm just not into that. I'm not into it that much. I'm not 15 anymore. I'm just not like, let me go find out. Let me go get, Worms of the Earth. I know this guy has the tape, some obscure song that we did at Warlord Manor. And it's like Giles found it. I think he found 3 different versions of it. You know,
it's good to have a fan in the band because the fans will always find the stuff. You know, it's funny to me when you talk to someone in a band sometimes and the fans know more than the actual band does. You know.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely.
But
The one
yeah,
I love,
Giles, Giles is that type of guy. You know, he seems to know his stuff very well. And High Roller, like I said, they do really, really good work. And it is a German label, but most of the American bands that are on it, they get the records and stuff shipped to them, and they sell them through their Bandcamp. So you should be able to go to Warlord. I'm sure Warlord has a Bandcamp page, and you can probably order from.
you might have to check with Giles on it. I'm pretty sure our deal with them is like they handle all that. Like they don't want us, pimping out the records. I'm not a big fan of like buy it from them for 5 and sell it for 10, and
Right. I'm just saying people wouldn't have to order it as an import and pay import shipping when have it distribution over here. And there is I know Gary Schaefer, who does the original Heavy Metal Museum. He has a web page. I know he carries a lot of High Rollers. I think he's a distribution place for High Roller. He carries a lot of their stuff in the U.S.
Oh, cool.
Going back, let me ask, going back, how did you end up on Metal Massacre 2?
It's a great story. Here we are. We're banging it out at Warlord Manor, which was basically 800 square feet in a warehouse, second story of an old warehouse that was built with wood and wooden floors and like nasty as hell. Cockroaches, probably 3 different kind of rats and mice. We took, because we knew we needed a place to live, but a place to play too. And we weren't in the position to like rent a rehearsal studio. That ain't gonna happen. So we makeshifted the shower in the bathroom and with the hose that went over the top. I could tell you how many times you can run hot water through a coffee maker before it goes to actually water and you don't get any more coffee out of it. we were all eating like one salad bar plate at Bob's Big Boy. And the funny story is a friend of ours who worked for Van Halen at the time came in and he actually ordered the shrimp dinner. And we were all so jealous because we were like 5 guys up, dude, go get the salad bar. Go pretend it's your turn. It's like, anyway, so we're doing our thing and we're cranking out the songs and recording them on like a cassette player that had 2 microphones coming out. And we had a kind of really bad version of Winds of Thor. And Bill and I went down to Oz Records and Brian Slagle's working there. And we knew he was putting out a record or whatever, he's starting this thing. I think he already probably had Metal Massacre one out. And true story is he puts in Winds of Thor and it doesn't get past the intro. And he goes, hey, you guys want to be on Metal Massacre 2? And that was it, and the rest is kind of history. There was another label, or not a label, there was another guy before Brian did his thing called Heavy Metal Rules. And it was a guy named Mark, not Walensky, but something like that. And the only thing we really got out of it was a shirt. But he was thinking doing the same thing that Brian was doing. And the other band that he had at the time was Keel, or it was Steeler with Ron Keel before I became Keel, I guess, but it was Steeler. And I don't think Yngwie had quite gotten there yet. I think it was the original guitar player, but I remember that's how we met Ron Keel back in the day, but that thing never came to fruition. I mean, we didn't get ripped off or anything like that. It's just the guy couldn't get it going.
Was that the U.S. Metal, Mike Varney?
Not Varney. No, I know Varney well, and Varney's been around for a long time, and he's legit and everything. There's another guy. It was called Heavy Metal Rules. It was supposed to be that compilation with up and coming bands.
So you guys had on Metal Massacre 2, you've got Lucifer's Hammer, and that album also featured the first appearance of Armored Saint and Trauma featuring a young Cliff Burton on bass. And then you guys are on Metal Massacre 3 with Miss Victoria, and I think that's the first appearance of Slayer on vinyl.
I thought Slayer was on the first one with Metallica.
No, they're just 3 is their first appearance.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Oh, another little fun fact in the old Warlord video there. Tom Araya was just hanging out that day at Perkins Palace, and he lent us the smoke machine. Dude had a smoke machine in his car. I don't know why, but he lent us that. Like he says, "Hey man, hold on a second." Like coolest guy ever. He was totally cool. He's like, hey, check it out. And he plugs it in, smokes it. It was like, it was cool. That was our one brush with fame, I guess, you know.
You know you made it when you use a fog machine.
During those times though, was there ever like a package show with a bunch of Metal Massacre bands together? Did you ever go out there and play with these bands that ended up on?
No, even when I played with Fate's Warning, they never had any of that. I think the closest I thought there was some kind of Metal Blade show at some part, but I don't I don't really remember. Maybe I didn't get the invitation. I don't know. But no, the I always thought that would be an interesting for something for Brian to do. You know, I'm sure he's not getting Metallica, but yeah, I don't know. Him and Lars are really tight, but you never know. You know, that'd be an interesting small club gig with like those kind of bands.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like, we just a couple years ago, we just had the 40th anniversary of the first Metal Massacre album. That's when they should have done a big Metal Massacre concert and had Metallica be a part of that. And I'm sure they would have gladly done it.
Yeah.
That would have been really cool.
Yeah. No, I'm surprised, Brian. Let's face it though, the truth be told, a lot of times live gigs are like losers in the financial department kind of thing. And as much as it's great for the fans, that's a tough one sometimes to pull off.
You put Metallica on and it wouldn't have been a loser. People would you'd have had people there that don't even know who the rest of the bands are.
Yeah, but the truth is, what does it cost to get Metallica there? You know what I mean?
I think they would have done it for Slagle. I really do.
You would have thought. I mean, there would have been something cool if it was like the unannounced guest and they just come walking out at something, count 3 songs and that's it.
Yeah, for sure.
Or you have some kind of gig and it's kind of like you lock the doors and then different surprises start happening with like bigger bands that you didn't think were going to be there that are there. So yeah, that's the classic secret gig, as they say. That's not so secret.
Yeah.
And all these years that you've been doing this, have you ever bumped into a musician that we might know that you thought was a total prick?
There's just so many. No. No.
Where does he start?
A prick to me, or just kind of?
Just a prick in general.
This is kind of the nice guy approach, but everybody has their days per se. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that say that I'm a prick. I get my coffee with not enough cream. I go nuts, but not really. It's always been pretty. You got to remember too. A lot of times, like when Fate's Warning's on tour, we're kind of insulated in the respect of, we're not a band like the Stones where every night there's 70 celebrities there. It's not that kind of thing. Nothing that really marks. In my studio in LA, I've had a few. I have to say the nicest guy, it's funny how this works. The guy with the most money is like the nicest guy, Bernie Taupin, who, wrote all the lyrics for Elton John and blah, blah, blah. And he had a band there called the Farm Dogs. And if you look at his band, it's like, okay, the least famous guy in there is the drummer, Tony Brock from the Babies. Then you got over here, I forgot his name, but he wrote Tonight's the Night and Hot Legs for Rod Stewart. So he's got a shitload of money. This guy over here wrote all these other hits for this guy and played with Rod Stewart for years and like that kind of thing. Bernie Taupin was like the nicest, coolest guy. I remember, God, I forgot who it was. One of the not famous guitar players from Aerosmith. When they went through that phase when Joe Perry wasn't there.
Rick Dufay or Jimmy Crepso.
Yeah, it's one of those guys who was in my studio. And I'll never forget, he's got like 12 Marshalls on 12. So it's like 175 dB going on. And then the manager's yelling at me because he can't hear the vocals, and so it was like the manager was in like this shark skin suit, like just like your typical, like what you'd think of like a slimy manager. And so what I did is we took a floor wedge, I turned it around and put it about this far from his face and just drilled the vocals in it. And I could see his ears getting pinned back. But as far as no, I haven't run into, the studio is always interesting. Had a lot of, big people, Stone Temple Pilots was in there for years. Those guys are always cool. big names, small names. That's all. They're all cool. You know, it's you got to remember. Usually, it's back in the day. Okay, bands had money. They were in nice rehearsal studios. They were recording records. You know, they weren't starving. Why shouldn't they be happy? You know, it was kind of a different time. It wasn't such a everybody scraping for every nickel that they had to find on the floor kind of thing. But no, I can't really say that I've had, you know, Ingve was totally cool. Robin Crosby, before he passed away in the old Warlord days, he was really cool. There's just a lot of cool people. You know, it really wasn't, because you have to remember too, that scene was like kind of new to everybody, and everybody was just trying to get along. Now, did all these bands help each other? Hell no. You know, was I getting phone calls from John Tempesta going, hey man, I'm really not digging the gig with the Cult. Why don't you take it? Hell no. You know, everybody had to have their own thing, and it was well respected. You know, also back in the day was that thing of, man, if you're playing in this band, you ain't playing in no other bands. Okay. That was really, really frowned upon. You know, by the way, just a little trivia question. Remember that the band called Ace with that song How Long?
Mm-hmm.
How long has this been going on? You know, everybody thought that was about a guy and a girl, right? No, it's about a guy in his own band going to play with another band. Seriously, I saw that. It was Paul Carrick was the singer who went on to play with Mechanics and all that. And no, the story is like it's about getting mistreating your own band and stepping out on your own band. So back then it was different. Now everybody has to play in 37 bands and do 30 records. You know, which I
still not making any money.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You know, I have to defend a guy like Ripper Owens, where they give him a bunch of crap, or any of those guys. Like, he's on 75 records. If he had one band that was making a lot of money, trust me, he wouldn't be on 75 records. But that ain't the way it is. And what's he going to go do? You know, drive a forklift? I mean, this is what he does. If someone's going to pay him to do a job, same with me. I'm doing it. Don't tell me, oh, you're spreading yourself too thin and you're diluting the product. Baloney, you're making a living. You got to keep the lights on. You know, that's all there is to it. So
how'd you get involved with working with Ripper?
It was just the Frontiers, Spirit of Fires, Spirit of Fire with Chris Caffrey.
Chris Caffrey,
yeah, and Steve DiGiorgio, and that was the first one, and it was one of those Frontiers put together. You know, I would call it, some call it superstar, I could call it substar. I don't know, I'm not sure if it quite qualifies as superstar, but it was one of those ones that was all done by the mail. You know, all those guys are totally cool, and it was an easy record to do. That wasn't a problem. But the coolest part is when we got together to do one of those videos where you actually got to hang out with people and get to know them and stuff. It just really just cool. Just really cool. Now there's the chance where you'd have some guy that was just a complete douche who's going like, what's Zonder doing here? Where's Eric Singer? I was like, why is this guy here? Everybody was totally just everybody was very, very cool and nice. And, Steve DiGiorgio's a crack up. Chris is a crack up. Ripper's a crack. I mean, it was cool. It was really cool. That's a band that you could definitely go on tour with and like, okay, this could be fun. Not all bands are fun. Let's just put it that way.
Now you've been in a lot of bands. Has there been any bands that asked you to be on an album or be with a band and you'd had to turn them down for any specific reason?
Yeah, Deep Purple. It just didn't work.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding. The truth be told, bands, I've only really been in 3. Warlord, Fate's Warning. Well, I mean, I was in a band called Animotion, Plain English. I played with them, You're My Obsession kind of thing. I mean, that was a band. Didn't do any recordings. And then A through Z. All the other stuff is work for hire and that kind of thing. I mean, one of the best albums I think I ever did, well, 2 that come to mind, League of Lights, which is Richard West from that band Threshold.
Okay, yep.
It was a poppy kind of thing with his wife singing. Not really poppy, but, he's a prog guy. I just loved it. It was great. It was songs. It was great songs. Production was great. Also, the band 10.
I was going to ask you about 10, yeah.
That was one that I wish I would have got the call on saying, hey, man, let's go on tour. But really? I was here, they were there in Europe. And even when it came down to the videos, they weren't flying me over there. In the old days, they might have because there was money involved, but they just got someone else like to do the video, play my parts and whatever and stuff like that. But I've only really been in like 3 kind of bands that are like recording bands, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I do a lot of work for hire. Um, no one's really asked me to like join and go do a tour, and very honestly, because it's a money thing.
Mm.
Uh, it just really comes down to that. It's tough for everybody right now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really tough, to go out on tour. I love seeing these articles. Yeah, it's the greatest years for bands to tour. Well, yeah, if you're Beyonce, if you're Taylor Swift, if you're Aerosmith and Def Leppard, maybe. But those other bands that are grinding out that 300 to 1,000 seat kind of places, my God, you can't even afford the fuel.
Right. Yeah.
It's tough, and the
Yeah.
promoters, it's a business. I get it, it's a business, but man, it's tough. We're
Yeah,
running into that right now with Warlord. It's a combo plate. We got gigs coming up at the end of August into September, and then a couple other things, and we're looking next year for United States dates, and getting what we can. But it's interesting that people don't realize it's on this kind of level. It's the money, and no one's making any money. But then there's another thing that I found interesting that kind of shocked me a little bit. But they all got this thing of like, okay, if you're going to play our festival, you can't play within a month anywhere close to here, as well as you can't announce any shows because we're afraid that they won't come to our show. They'll go to that other show. And so if we're going to pay you X amount, and trust me, it's not life-shaking money,
Right.
it's kind of weird. And it gets really
Yeah.
tough because you're talking about a band like Warlord. It's not like we just get in the van and go down the street to play. You're talking about guys all over the world, basically.
Right. Right.
So it's tough. It's really tough. I understand that it's a business and I'm not knocking it, but it's not as easy as, hey, man, let's go play. It doesn't work that way, so it's
Wow.
tough, you know.
Where are your gigs that you got coming up in the summer?
We're landing in August in Essen, Germany. There's a private, it's not private, like a small warm-up show. And then we're playing the Truheim Festival, which, it's kind of I don't want to say 80s thing, but Warlord will fit in quite nicely. And then going to the next week, there's a small kind of secret gig somewhere in Athens, supposedly. And then that Friday or Saturday, there's this big, I don't have it in front of me, but a big festival in Greece where we're like the headliner. It's built around us per se. I think it's like an 8,000 seat kind of festival. So that'll be good. Greece has always been good. Then there's an Italy, France thing going on in September. And then today there was talk about Japan. So I think what our quote problem is like no one in the beginning, well, what are we getting? What Warlord, your guy died. What happened?
Mm.
The whole key is Warlord will be tighter than ever. It's going to be so ridiculously tight. It's not even going to be funny. We're going to give them the 17 songs that they want to hear, that they've heard. And I think once we get out there and the iPhones start rolling and the word gets spread, I think the gigs will start coming in. Right now, they're not sure. I remember when we first started this, we had one offer here and it was like, okay. But as soon as we got that one, all of a sudden, 2 other ones kind of popped up like, well, wait a minute, this guy's booking them. It must be valid.
Mm.
So that thing, I mean, give it, a couple weeks of shows. And it's such a beautiful thing these days with the internet. Give it a couple weeks and those clips will get out there.
Oh yeah.
Word of mouth is going to be spreading. People will be going, man, they really suck, or wow, these guys are really good. It's like again, I hate to say it, but it's so popular. Not a lot of bands out there that you go original member, original member, original member, original member, especially when you're getting to our age. Okay,
No.
I just want people to be able to close their eyes and experience Warlord, the music. And that's what it was always about. Bill was never that guy running around stage, lighting his hair on fire, sliding and doing all these kind of things. It was just about the music. It was like, just sit there, watch the guys play, experience the whole thing. And we did, the whole audience thing that gets wrapped up in the whole thing. I mean, it was crazy. I'll never forget playing those Greek shows, sitting backstage, the opening band's on, and all I hear is Warlord, Warlord over the top. And I look at Bill and I go, dude, this is what it must be like playing with, playing an Iron Maiden, where like every night, no matter where you are, no matter how you play, no matter how hungover you are, they just love you. They love you.
Yeah.
I said, what an incredible spot to be in. And we both kind of looked at each other and it was 2 things. It was like, wow, this is really incredible. And then it was like, what the hell took everybody so long?
That was a decade ago, and
Yep.
it just seems like over this last decade, you've had this whole new just resurgence of classic heavy metal, and you've got all this younger generation that are totally into it. That our kids were totally into it, and it's amazing, and I love it because I love going into shows and I see these young guys with their denim patch vest, battle vest, and everything. I mean, and they know the bands, and so you've got so many festivals over in Europe. Now you're starting to have these festivals pop up in the U.S. that are just pretty much keyed at the 80s older bands.
Wasn't there one just recently in Houston?
Hell's Heroes in Texas Houston last weekend.
Okay, I'm not saying nothing, but sounds like a good one.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe that would be good for next year.
You said it, I didn't, but okay.
Yeah.
Legal complications. But
I understand. Yeah. But I mean, they're all over. They're popping up all over the U.S. There's a bunch of different ones, and I've been to several of them. And take a band like Sear Thungold. They're probably bigger now than they were when they were a young band in the early 80s.
Absolutely. Oh no.
And there's a rash of new bands that I'm really into. They call it the new wave of traditional metal.
Yeah.
All these bands are like, they weren't even alive back when Metal Massacre 2 came out.
No.
They sound like Warlord or all these bands from back then. They adapted that style. So I am really much into this new wave of traditional heavy metal.
Yeah, me too.
Music that I grew up on. So, these new bands are really adapting to it, and it is growing.
No, absolutely. I think there's a band out there called Tail Gunner.
Yes. And really good band, and Traveler. There's a lot. Yeah, Tail Gunner is really good.
Yeah, the whatchamacallit, Giles was talking to them about doing some Warlord shows and whatever, but I think they're like hooked up with Udo now or something, like they're doing shows or something. They're like too booked till like next year or something like that. But the Warlord thing would definitely work. I mean, yes, it would be great to open up for Priest. Okay, I mean, yeah, obviously, but to package it together, I thought Armored Saint and Warlord would be a great too.
Priest is bringing out like the band Sabaton from I guess they're, I don't know if they're German, Swedish,
Sweden,
but they've got their own fan base that comes out. Someone was saying, why did Priest bring Sabaton to the U.S.? And I'm like, because Sabaton's got their own fan base. Their fans like Judas Priest as well. The Judas Priest fans might not be big Sabaton fans, but vice versa. Their fans do like Judas Priest.
Yeah. It would be kind of interesting to play with, some of those younger bands, because, I've seen a couple of like articles or whatever, and the guy standing there and kind of looks like a mini Steve Harris from back in the day, and I'm thinking, how 40 years later, where'd you find those shoes at? And it's like, man, that's kind of cool,
Where'd you find those striped trousers?
Yeah, well, yeah, you can find that anywhere, but yeah, that's those are at every thrift shop, I have the feeling, in LA, but
yeah, probably.
But yeah, the only thing that's kind of interesting is, because back when we were doing it, and again, here's the old man speech. Back when we were doing it, there was no internet, there's no this, there's no that, nothing. It was get the records, study them, and just rip them off as best you can. Rip off everything Cozy Powell ever did. Rip them off. Learn it, take it, kind of thing. Today, it almost seems today where it's coming out of the blocks a little too early, perhaps, just because I don't want to say that the dues haven't been paid, but you have this whole social media thing where, I can take my dog and make him a star tomorrow. Well, I wish I could, but you know what I'm saying? It's a different thing. There's something to be said about those 10,000 hours or whatever, 100,000 hours, or something about like getting kicked in the face a bunch of times. It's like that joke, the bass player joke where, he goes to take the bass lesson and comes home. Hey, son, what'd you learn? Oh, I learned the E string. Goes for a second lesson. Oh, I learned the F string. He goes, son, how's your lesson day? He goes, oh, I didn't go to lessons. I got a gig. It's kind of like, it's like, there's something to be said about like a well-seasoned machine. I think it was like, who was it, like Gene Simmons or someone said, it's like, play 1,000 shows and come talk to me. that kind of thing. So
you're right though. It's instant exposure now.
yeah, and it's and then what's funny about it is let's put auto tune in there, cutting to the grid, drum samples, and everything else, and there's a reason why that $800 Warlord album Deliver Us that was done, 2 kick drums and 1 bass on 1 track, engineers smoking crack cigarettes the whole time. There's a reason it sounds a certain way because it was the band playing. There's no sample, there's no cutting it to the grid, there's no this, it was playing. And I think that's a little bit sometimes missing today. There you go. Especially with, especially when it comes to drums, you can just hear that a mile away. It's like, oh my God, they sampled this, they got this, okay, that kind of thing. And that kind of takes away when everybody's kind of go for that 80s vibe. Trust me, Iron Maiden wasn't triggering kick samples.
No.
Judas Priest wasn't, auto-tuning Halford's voice. And that's where the beauty of all that comes into play. I'll never forget auditioning for Alice Cooper, and I learned like 11 songs or something. And I remember back in the day sitting there with the turntable, how the songs would just fluctuate in tempo, like nobody's business. But that's what gave the beauty of like School's Out. Like it'd come to the chorus and it would kind of push a little bit. And that was the beauty, and that's what made that music so special. Not so, okay, bars 1 through 4, quantize that. Okay, bars over here, let's quantize that. That you can grow your hair as long as you want. You can buy the same instruments, you can get the same sound, you can wear the same shoes. But there's something about that whole recording process of when it comes out that one could consider as a little bit missing.
Yeah. Yeah, and nowadays too, you can't tell. Like back in the days, you could put on a record and not even know who it is, and you could say, "Oh, that's Nickel McBrain playing drums." Now today, everybody sounds the same. They have the same drum sound, same guitar sound. You don't know who's playing what.
Absolutely, it's that same sample.
Yeah,
it's the same exact.
It's too precise, just way too precise.
Yep.
Yeah,
yep. And he ain't playing it that way.
Right.
No,
right.
No. And with technology, you get right in there and you can see the WAV file and you can move it and play it. I mean, I'll never forget one of the coolest things I ever saw in the studio was when we did Parallels, and it was Terry Brown, who did the Rush stuff, and he was over there cutting the 2-inch tape. Not for necessarily like editing something, but he was cutting the tape to put it together, and it was just like an art form. It was amazing how technicians and engineers back then, what they did as compared to today. Now it's just like punch a button. Okay, highlight that area. Okay, delete that. Move that. I mean, it's like hit that auto quantize thing or rhythmatic thing where it puts it, it's good and bad. I would say more bad probably, because also what it does, it enables anybody and their mother to put out a record, and it just kind of floods the landscape.
Right.
Oh, there's so much good music out there. Really? I mean, guy's in his room with a computer. I don't know. Is that music? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this whole thing with AI going to start making music now?
Well, drum machine, auto tune. It's just kind of all that kind of put together.
Yeah.
I think it's horrible. I think Tennessee just passed something. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Oh no.
Tennessee, because of the whole Nashville thing, they have a whole thing of like laws that just went into effect, kind of like banning the AI, or it has to be overly designated if that's what it is, because all the songwriters were kind of going, wait a minute, there goes all my money. Like the heavy duty songwriter guys, like Brian, or like they were talking to him and stuff. And good for them. I mean, it should spread all over the place. I mean, that should just be what it is. I mean, let's stop Napster right now. You know what I mean? Let's stop. Let's be Lars and say, let's stop it now. Because once it gets out of the box, forget it.
Oh yeah.
You're never going to get it back in. I think one of the worst things that ever happened, and we had this discussion years ago, as much as CDs were cool and everything like that, you just opened up basically handing everybody your master, okay, and selling it, and you can get your master, and you can bang your copies or whatever. The movie industry, however they did it, they made sure you couldn't do that. Could you imagine if you could just copy a movie? I don't know, maybe you can.
You can.
Yeah, there's software, but it's everybody. It's not at everyone's fingertips, though. You know.
I mean, it's crazy though that think about it, that you a CD is your master. That's it.
I read an article like a year or so ago, very interesting, about the whole MP3 thing. they said like, I don't know, it was like maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they came up with a car that wasted very little gas. And the car manufacturers bought that patent so nobody can use it. And,
Oh yeah.
and the record companies could have done the same thing with Napster, where they would have bought MP3s where nobody can use it. But they were sleeping on it, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And it kind of came back. I mean, that is a step right in the direction of kind of the downfall of what we knew as the music business and and how it was in the heyday of what was happening.
Yeah, it's the Wild West now, right?
Yeah, no, it's a dead issue.
There's no record companies, there's nothing anymore. But hey, Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
To plug your new album, it's coming out on High Roller. Where you go to the High Roller site to get it? Or...
Absolutely. Plus, when it comes out, they'll be bombarding. What's out now, though, if you go to it, they actually put out a 7-inch single, like the old days, like a single. But the only thing that I didn't like about it, I was waiting for the center hole to be big where you had to put the elevator, but they didn't. It just has, because let's face it, no one has a, everybody be going to Amazon to buy those little plastic. Yeah. I used to love having to put it in there and put the little thing in there and put the 45 and stuff. But no, it's cool. It's it has a regular hole. You play it on a regular turntable, and I'm pretty sure it's 33. It's not 45. And so they have that out, and they're great. They're working it. We're trying to do as much as we can. We're dying to get out and playing live. I've got the 17 songs down. I actually, right before I got on this with you guys, I was over there pounding them out. And it's like, we're going to be ready, and it's going to be stronger than ever, and it's going to be like, hopefully it's going to be the old, oh my God, so it's going to be great.
Yeah, I really did enjoy the album. My favorite is Conqueror. That's my favorite track.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite as well.
Yeah, that was one that Bill and I were working on. That that was the one that we had like basically done for all intents and purposes. And I do love when people come in. Oh, that doesn't sound like Warlord. Well, that's Bill's guitar that you hear, and that's me playing the drums. And by definition in the dictionary, Warlord is Mark and Bill. So how is it not Warlord? Life goes on. I guess they're not going to the show, so we're good. We'll save them a seat. We're looking forward to it.
Do you think there'll be another Warlord album though after this one?
See, that's the big $24,000 million, $6 million question, or whatever they say. Mm-hmm. I would have to say right now, if there's a demand, but the truth is, and I'm playing with this in my head, is like, do we do like a lot of other bands have done? Do you take the guys that did this record? You're not going to be changing members or anything like that. You take these guys, they're Warlord guys. They're into it. They get it. And do we just start writing new music, without Bill, but in that style and with him in mind? And like, well, how would Bill play it? We're not going to come out with a funk tune, and you keep it in the Warlord style. It comes down at the end of the day. You think about it as a business. Okay, I'm selling Warlord. People want Warlord. They don't want to hear the jazz version of Child of the Damned. Okay. Are we good enough to put it together? Is it going to be Bill? No. But who knows what Bill would have written now compared to what he wrote then? I don't know. Some people are going to say, oh man, I mean, they already said it, no Bill, no Warlord. It's like, well, wait a minute, I get it, but I was there the whole time. I went to I went up Mount Sinai with him. It was him and me. It wasn't anybody else. So no one really has an opinion, but me. And let's just get this out of the way right now. This has nothing to do with money. These records would not be possible unless everybody had their own studios. Trust me. Yeah. Not going to happen. You guys know the music business. You know what's out there. This isn't Iron Maiden. Yeah. I mean, this isn't, the new AC/DC record. Please. I love when I see people, oh, Zonder's doing it for a cash grab. Trust me. It had nothing to do with money. It's about the band. It's about music. And more importantly, at this stage of the game, it's about having fun. And just, I sit over there, I put my head down. I start sweating. I start seeing, Bill, I start singing the songs. I flash back to 1981 with him and I in this dusty little automobile warehouse, just him and I. He's in his Kiss boots. He's about 6'7", and we're playing every song that we ever played way too fast. We're not playing to a click. We're just jamming, and I see that and I feel it through my body. I know the parts. I'm slamming them. I'm humming into my head. It's the greatest feeling in the world. Let's face it. Warlord didn't do 50 world tours. You can't tell me, hey man, we saturated that territory. No, it's like being 21 again. It's kind of new. And if people want to see it, we're going to bring it.
Very cool. Very
awesome. Good. Mark, you've been awesome, man. I really
thank you for joining us.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for joining us. And again, check out the new Warlord. It's coming out next month.
May 5th, supposedly.
May month.
I think it's May 5th.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, guys. Whenever we're out and about, if we're playing, come to me, remind me, or hit me up ahead of time. We'll take care of you guys. Anybody that's helping the band is definitely getting the first class treatment. I mean, everybody's going to get the first class treatment, but you know what I'm saying? I appreciate what you guys are doing. It definitely helps us without a doubt. Anything comes up, if you have a question or something's up, feel free to get in touch with me anytime. I'm always here.
Thank you.
Very cool. Very cool. I sent you a friend request on Facebook, so hit that accept button.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'll send you that Facebook. Yeah, thing that I open my mouth too much on. Oh, that thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I saw all your posts. That's okay. I agree with a lot of what you put on there, so you're fine.
Hey, shut up and dribble. Shut up and play the drums. I don't know. At this point in the game, what are you gonna? You take my birthday away? It's like, hey, I'm not derogatory. I'm not nasty.
Yeah.
Sarcastic.
Yeah.
But when I see what's going on, it's tough to keep my mouth shut. Sorry.
Yeah, totally agree.
Right. Okay, guys. I appreciate your time.
Have a good night.
And Mark, add me. I'm going to send your Ralph Fierro. I'm going to send you a friend request.
Send him over. I will take care of him. Absolutely.
Right on. All right.
Very
Thank
cool.
you, everybody watching. Thank you, Wayne and Tony, as always, and Mark Zonder.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a great interview. And I hope you have a great night. Good night, everybody. Smack 'em a gob.
Adios.
Later.